Good morning, everyone. I'm Tanisha Naran.
Mr. Sharanya Chatterjee.
I am Shayan Haldar.
I am Ishika Kundu.
I am Pooja Dash.
I'm Shujandra.
This is Untitled Chatterjee.
I'm Sriyanandi.
And we are the students of UG Semester 2 of Zoology Department of Barshad Government College. The topic we have chosen for our presentation is Saving the Ocean, the Most Neglected Conservation. Ocean conservation, also known as marine conservation, is the protection and preservation of ecosystems in seas and oceans through planned management in order to prevent the overexploitation of resources, taking care of the fact that no marine organisms are harmed during the use of conservation techniques. It is informed by the study of marine plants and animal resources and ecosystem functions and is driven by response to the manifested negative effects seen in our environment such as species loss, habitat degradation, changes in ecosystem functions, and focuses on limiting human-caused damage on marine ecosystem, restoring damaged marine ecosystem, and preserving vulnerable species and ecosystems of the marine life. Now, there are a few subtopics that we are going to discuss today under ocean conservation. These subtopics are coral reefs, human impacts, extinct and endangered species, significance of marine ecology, conservation techniques, and lastly, laws and treaties. But before we start discussing these topics, we would like to share our opinion on why we consider the ocean conservation is a neglected one.
The conservation of our seas and oceans generally lags far behind than conservation on land, with progress towards marine protected area targets, for example, being lamentably slow. While the destruction of terrestrial ecosystems is visible for all of us to see, when it comes to the marine protected area, there is little on the surface to indicate that anything is wrong besides the float storm of plastic debris that litters our waves and coastlines. But the truth is that our seas, oceans, and shores face many threats from overfishing and destructive fishing practices to coastal and offshore developments that destroy key ecosystems, and from pollution in many ways to the twin threats of climate change and ocean acidification.
Most of you guys may have seen coral reefs in books, pictures, magazines. Some of you may have had some personal experience with it. So you guys have a quite fair idea about what a huge amount of life it can sustain. It acts as an epicenter of huge amount of biodiversity, and it really plays an important role in determining the quality of the ocean as well as the survivability of the entire marine ecosystem. It provides food, shelter, protection to several uncountable number of marine species. It is estimated that within 10 years or so, we'll lose about 15% of our existing coral reefs, and within 2050 to 75, coral reefs will be completely extincted. Overfishing, using of cyanide-based products, then oil spills, untreated sewage water into the ocean, all these are causing the coral reefs to get depleted. Now you can see a slide where the bottommost picture shows a white color coral reef. Actually, that's in biological term known as coral bleaching. About 80% of the Southwest Asian coral reefs are being threatened, with about 50% or more under high alert. This is quite alarming to the island nations, specifically Indonesia, Samoa, Philippines, Maldives, where people mostly depend on this marine ecology for their survival, for their livelihood, and for keeping the country's economic backbone straight. Now, as of preventive measures, first and foremost, we need to educate people. We need to make them aware of the fact that their activities are somehow harming the environment, harming the nature, harming the oceans, as well as all the marine creatures residing in them. We must also completely eradicate the practices like using of cyanide-based products, dynamite fishing, and using of such means which can harm the environment. Now, nations must also take responsibilities for direct disposal of untreated sewage water into the oceans, and we must take preventive measures to reduce the amount of oil spills in the ocean. So, this is all about coral reef.
Increasing human population also increase human impact on ecosystems. Human activities, intentional or unintentional, have resulted in an increased extinction rate of species, causing heavy negative impact in the biodiversity of plants and animals in our environment. Now, there are different ways in which humans impact the balance of marine ecosystem. For instance, carbon footprint, which makes the water acidic, leading to the loss of corals, also leaving the water hostile for the survival of other species. Agricultural and industrial runoff, disposal of non-degradable containers, sewage, eutrophication, household litters, waste dump, etc. Oil spills also cause marine pollution and should be avoided as oil floats on water because of its lower density, cutting off air contact. It can be fatally harmful to marine organisms. With the rise of new normal, in recent years, we have introduced a new form of pollution without even realizing, and that's mass pollution. It not only creates pollution, but is also life-threatening to certain marine species, for example, turtles. Turtles can get entangled in the mask, making it unable to swim properly and can be fatal. Another human impact would be tourism. Several cases were reported where tourists carved their names on corals, heavily damaging them. One of the prime reasons for such acts might be their lack of knowledge about corals. It is an act of vandalism and might not seem particularly problematic, but corals, even though they may appear like rocks, they are living organisms. Laws must be strictly implemented against these acts. There is also a need to reduce overfishing or bycatch, that is fishing of non-target species, prevent introduction of invasive species and entanglement in fishing nets, because these are also some of the chief causes in the decrease of marine species.
The impact we have had on marine life so far is not appreciable. Many species are endangered while many are extinct. The species which are endangered are green sea turtle, American eel, European eel and Japanese eel. And the species which are now extinct are monk seal, Japanese sea lion, carnivorous sea link and stellar sea cow.
The marine ecosystems are an important part of the world because the marine ecosystems give marine life such as tiny plankton, fish, crustaceans, marine mammals, invertebrates, reptiles, sharks, and raise a place to live and survive. Marine ecosystems are also important for society since they provide services including food security, feed on livestock, raw materials for medicines, building materials from coral rock and sand, and natural defense against hazards such as coastal erosion and inundation. It also gives those marine animals a place to haunt. The ocean is one of the repositories of the world biodiversity.
Techniques for marine conservation tend to combine theoretical discipline with population biology, thereby setting up well-protected areas. Now, another important technique, and by far the most important, is the education of public about conservation issue. This includes educating tourists who are unfamiliar with the regulations and also have come to visit the place about certain proper biological methods to conserve marine life. This is also based on social science-based methods. Many researchers have also found the effectiveness of marine conservation through special awareness programs in order to sustain tourism development to raise public awareness. Now, common techniques also include exposure to the concept of public footprint, that is carbon footprint, to the general public's attention, and to educate people to use less plastic. Hence, these are some of the many ways through which we can conserve the marine biology. Thank you very much.
International laws and treaties are related to marine conservation include 1966 Convention on Fishing and Conservation of Living Resources of High Seas. US laws related to marine conservation includes Marine Mammal Act in 1972, Marine Protection Act, Research and Sanctuaries Act in 1972. Other laws from different nations include Marine Act in 2010 and the other one, United Nations Framework of Sustainable Development Act.